Welcome back. Season 2 is started off strong. We are in season 2 of Elm Elaborates. Here we're going to talk about, well, I'm here with Ryan as always. We're going to talk about one of our vendors, one of our, can we say favorite? I'm not sure. Primo, I would say
It
most
might be a little
used.
apparent as we talk about
It
it.
might be a little apparent as we have their apparel on. But we're going to talk about ProSteel and what they bring to this, what they bring to us in this amazing aspect that makes our business so interesting.
Yeah, I think we're going to excessively elaborate on the storage materials, doors, and that kind of stuff, just as a whole, because I don't think people really realize like what the storage materials and how it gets installed and delivered and all that kind of stuff. You just walk in there and you see these hallways and doors, and you're like, oh, like does that come prefab? Like, do they like unbox it? Like, it's pretty unique how they do that.
Yeah, and this is like a little lesson for me too, because I don't know too much. There's so many aspects about it. So I mean, I'm interested to hear your take on all this. I know a little bit.
Yeah, I know probably just a little bit more than you because when it comes to John Serva and Dave Magnuson,
Dave, yeah,
like they have,
they who hold the knowledge.
Yeah, like 30 plus years experience with this stuff. So I've been on site while it's being installed, and so that's where my knowledge comes from, just watching. But I couldn't do a material takeoff for this stuff. That's why we have ProSteel, because they know the square footage and net rentable, all the parts and pieces, and that's why they're our subcontractor.
Yeah, anytime I talk to Dave, he's like, oh yeah, we need to order a jam, these corners and that. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like you know what you're doing, Dave. Just order it.
Yeah.
just put it, let me know how much.
Yeah, so.
All right, so what about, so let's just start off first. I guess we walk the properties, and then we get a layout from Ernie and one of our architects?
Yeah, so the first thing we have to identify, like, key points of egress for life safety, because we can't put any storage materials there. Our storefronts, we like to put, like, faux doors in front of our storefronts.
Classy look.
And then Drake, the acquisitions team, they do an underwriting. You can't have a facility with all 10 by 30s, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to have varying sizes to fit, varying needs of your clientele. So usually we'll do a mix that is predetermined by what the particular market is calling for. Some areas that have, just smaller shops and stuff, maybe they need smaller units. Mm-hmm. If you have a larger percentage of like retail, commercial, properties, they might need larger spaces. Like, I don't really know the whole deal, but I just know that they pay attention to it and we build it as they kind of draw it, because they have a particular unit mix that they want them to see. 35 by 5s, 45 by 10s.
Yeah.
And also we put the larger ones, like the 10 by 30s, we put the larger ones right by the large exterior garage roll-up doors so that it's easier for people to move their stuff in and out.
Yeah. The one thing that comes to mind is I just remember when I first started, I kind of walked Gastonia. I remember I was talking about the individual who designed the layout, and they were like, that was his niche. I was like, he will find a way to put as much space, as many units possible in this facility, and like they're really crafty about like, hey, where they put things and just to get us the most net rentable space.
That's correct. So this guy does like, I think it's like 1,000 of these buildings a year. It's something crazy. He does them for U-Haul, for Extra Space, all the really big names. Shout out to Ben. He does a great job, especially also because you have your vertical supports that support the weight of your roof.
Yeah.
So you have to lay out the storage units so that these posts aren't right near your door. Because imagine you roll up the door and then you got this big post right in the middle. Well, you can't fit your couch in anymore. Yeah. So, so that's some stuff you don't even think about until you walk the site and with these experts, and they're like, purposefully laying out the storage so that we have an optimized layout and it's actually fits the need of that particular market.
Yeah, I like that. So we get that back from Ben, and then we send that to ProSteel, or we send that out to bidding. We'll say that.
Yeah, we do bid it out. Typically, we bid out the project to 2 or 3 different storage suppliers. Even if we have a favorite, we still like to go and see what the market rate is at that time for metal, especially corrugated metal. It all gets imported, so the rates on the price of metal changes all the time.
Yeah.
So, we never know exactly who's going to be the best price, and we're not always just looking for price specifically. We need someone who could show up on time, do what they say, and give us a great product. So, there's some people out in the market now in the corrugated metal world that do these storage hallways and doors. And there's one in particular that's the biggest name, and they are the most expensive. And we've used them in the past, and they're pretty good. But the communication sometimes is lacking because I think of how big of a company they are.
That makes sense.
And their price reflects their size. Like as companies get so big, they have to hire HR departments and this and that, and so their price is pretty steep.
Yeah.
So we were getting more and more projects, and we said, well, the storage is one of our biggest line items in our budget. Sometimes it is the largest. Like if the roof is clean and sprinkler system's good, typically the storage supplying line item is the biggest and highest cost on our project. So we were making connections, and then we actually hosted our real estate meetup right here in the Nomad's office, and we had a guy come in from right down the road. His name is Nate from ProSteel, and we were hanging out, and he was actually hanging out with Levi and Eric mostly, and they got to chatting about storage and all the stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what we do. And then the tour through the building, and they saw our little golf simulator, and Nate just loved the golf simulator, but
who doesn't?
Since he was a lefty, we had to adjust the whole thing for him. So.
Yeah.
But they had a great night and everything, and we got Nate's contact, and we weren't sure what was going to happen from that conversation, but it blossomed into a great business relationship that has really worked out for I think, the both of us.
Yeah, because ProSteel's like out of Wilmington. They're right down the road.
They're 8 minutes away.
Yeah, I mean,
which is very rare.
Yeah,
like other suppliers are out of Florida. I think one's out of Ohio. I'm not sure where the rest are, but it's just really rare to have a storage supplier. It's like exactly what we do right down the road. Like Nate pops into our office probably 2 or 3 times a month.
Yeah.
So, and Nate was on our podcast.
That's true. It's crazy that he came in almost like as an investor, or like looked at the investing part first, and then he kind of told us what he did.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool. That's a little.
Because we like to, our meetups are more real estate based, like talking about investments and that kind of stuff. We're not really pushing what we do. If people are interested, that's great. But that's kind of how it just grew organically from there.
So what was the first project that ProSteel bid that we were like, ooh, we like you?
Yeah, it was Macon, Georgia.
Really, Macon?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had a price from the bigger company, and we were looking at it, and we got ProSteel's price, and they gave us a pretty aggressive price, and we kind of knew this was like they wanted to prove themselves.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in Levi's office, and we were going over the prices and the layout and everything, and we were just like, man, like it almost seems too good to be true. They're so close, and their price is good, and they're great guys. It's like we really want to make sure this works out for us. And we did our due diligence, checked references and that kind of stuff, and we heard a lot of good things. And we're like, you know what? We're going to make this happen. Like, and we moved forward with ProSteel, and they immediately sent us submittals and like what kind of doors we were getting, what color, what kind of latches, and that made us feel good. Yeah.
How big was Macon? Just so I have a rough idea. Like
Macon was about 52,000 square foot. Don't hold me to that. It was something like that. That was
okay.
I got involved about 60% the way through on that project.
Okay.
So, and that's right when we were ordering the hallways and doors. So it's in the 50s. I think like 52, 54,000 square foot.
Okay. It gives me an idea.
Yeah, it's a medium size for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they knew they needed to prove themselves, and they did an amazing job. Like the final product, it's amazing. Everything is so straight. It's so crispy and white. It's just, it looks great. It's a great product.
Yeah. So when they're sending these submittals, like what is that process? I mean, I've seen it a little bit, firsthand, but like they want to know what we want or the customer now.
Yeah. So since it's not structural, it's pretty simple because our our storage hallways and doors are really considered furniture as far as a tax item is concerned, because it's not structurally holding up the building, and they can be removed technically.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be hard, but they can be removed. So the way the submittal process works, like you pick, the color of your doors, your latches, if you want corner guards, if you want wainscoting, if you want diamond plate kick plates.
Oh, there's a wainscoting option?
Yep, there's a wainscoting option.
Wow.
Yep, it's not cheap.
On the interior or the exterior?
It's on the exterior, yeah.
Oh,
And like you can do liner
fancy.
panels in the hallways, and
Yeah.
like in the office you can do some cool stuff that they do. That's basically your submittal process, picking all that stuff out. If you were going the structural route, it's definitely way harder. You got to pick your header size and the roof. Well, usually when it's structural, you're responsible for the roof. The ProSteel would be responsible for the roof as well, and you got to pick all that, and flashing details, all that kind of stuff. So we have not done that with ProSteel. We've done it with a company called Storage Structures. I personally wasn't involved in that project, but that was 421 Greensboro.
Okay.
Yeah, so... mostly, ProSteel does the non-structural storage hallways and doors for us, and they have been great to work with. Making wrapped up, it was an awesome product. Nate went out there, took a look, and we were all just really happy, and we knew that we were on to something.
Yeah. And then from there, what was after Macon, I guess?
Yeah, so after Macon, we did Gastonia. We had Gastonia,
so that was your
Burlington.
second one?
Yeah. So Gastonia was the second one. That one,
That's huge.
Yeah,
That's a big one.
It was. Yeah, it was. That was like 74,000 square foot, 2 levels, and just Gastonia in itself was a difficult, choppy project. And ProSteel did great. They went out and walked it with us, and yeah, I mean that was the first time I got hands-on. Well, I wouldn't say hands-on. I was watching. I wasn't actually doing it. But I got my first look into watching them actually install the storage hallways and doors.
Yeah.
I remember it because it was a super cold morning. I mean, it was freezing, and the when it's cold overnight and you have a thick slab, a foundation slab, what happens is the cold just gets sucked into that slab, and then it just emits just cold air all day. It's like the old school refrigerator. Like that's what they did.
Put it in the ground.
Yeah, in Egypt, they basically just had old. They had
history lesson.
Yeah, they had just stones they would put out, and that's how they kept things cold. So I was walking the site. It was freezing, and I was inside, and then the roofers came, and I had to go on the roof, and I was relieved because it was actually sunny out. So I went up on the roof. I met ProSteel's guys, shook their hand, and I went up on the roof, and I walked with the roofer for about 2 hours, and I came downstairs, and they had done the layout, they had installed the bottom track, and then they started installing the vertical pieces too to mark out all the stuff and start their cross braces, and I just couldn't believe it because it was just 2 hours, and they did a whole layout. They started installing the bottom track, and it's this really lightweight piece of metal. What they do is they put it on their layout, and then they take these guns and they basically shoot them into the ground with powder shots. And so they grab into the concrete that way. It's basically like a 22 rifle round that has an anchor on the end of it that helps getting into the concrete instead of drilling the concrete and putting a fastener in it. It's just a quick powder shot.
Boom, boom. And then they're just moving.
They're
turning
moving.
And burning. Yeah,
and the guys were probably, most of the guys were either 5'1" or 5'3", and they weighed about 120 pounds, and they were just moving through this building.
Gosh.
It was insane. And when they would do the powder shot, their legs would go flying off the ground. But man, they were moving faster than I've ever seen, and I just remember thinking like, oh wait, these guys are for real.
Yeah.
Like this is not a joke. Like they know exactly what they're doing. They've come here to do a job, and they're doing exactly that. And I just I stayed on site all day that day, and I popped back in the next morning before heading back to Wilmington, and just the amount of progress I saw in one day, I couldn't believe it. It was fantastic, and I was just really happy with that.
Yeah, and Gastonia, that one had 2 different height levels, right? Because on the bottom floor we could go our standards.
Yeah, 8'4".
Yeah, 8'4", and then but with that second floor we had to drop.
Yeah, we had to go 7'8" on that one.
Yeah, just for the lighting.
The lighting and the sprinklers. Yeah. The sprinkler system. We had to go a little bit lower up there. But yeah, I mean that project was definitely, it was like like Macon wasn't a fluke. Like ProSteel is for real.
Yeah.
Like we felt really confident with them, and like when you have a system downstairs that's 8'4" and a system upstairs that's 7'8", like that's where you get to see the exposure of some of these weak points. Like it's easy to install the same thing over and over,
Yeah.
but for a company to take inventory of all this stuff, lay it out, 2 different products, goes 2 different locations, for them to me, I don't know if Nate would say this, to me, the way I saw it, it was seamless.
Yeah.
Like everything, maybe there were some hiccups that I didn't see that ProSteel just, because it's construction, things are going to go wrong, things are going to get misplaced, but I never felt like they were dragging at all. I felt like, wow, these guys are almost moving too fast for us to keep up. Like every time I looked around, like they were taking care of us. So that just felt really good.
All right, so now they've done Macon. They've proven themselves with the Gastonia. Which other projects? Burlington would be next, right?
Yeah, Burlington was next. That one, I wasn't involved on the actual job site too much, but I just know that ProSteel knocked that one out of the park too. Sometimes with height restrictions, also we have to switch to swing doors, and Burlington had swing doors in the basement. That I forgot what height was. I think that was 7'4" in that basement area. But yep, ProSteel has the ability to do swing doors, roll up doors. So we went with swing doors on that one. Again, another seamless project from ProSteel, and then we did Lexington, and you know all about Lexington.
Yeah, I know all about. So Lexington was my first opportunity to see these guys actually move in. I think, so we went ahead, and by the time I was involved in Lexington, we already had a price for them, right?
Yep.
So we've already engaged them. I think we're 3 or 4. Well, at the very beginning of the project, got our bids, but really did our selections. Got our deposit paid, because that's a big one, getting that deposit paid so they can get the material. But I say we were about 4 months out of that part, at that point. And then I saw Dave offloaded the material, and I just remember he goes, it's here. We're ready to rock and roll. And so I went down the like 4 days later, and like they already had half the building of it. I was like, what? I thought this was going to take so long to put together, and these guys were just moving, and they were it was just amazing to see how fast the layout and how fast they kind of moved, and the wire mesh on top and how they put the whole thing together. I do remember Dave being he was like, this hat channel here, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know what hat channel is.
Dave.
I don't know what I mean, I'm a little lost right now. So it's great to have Dave on the team just to point out things and really get into the installers and be like, hey, make sure you guys are doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we engaged ProSteel, got their deposit with Lexington. Another thing I kind of remember is you reaching out to Nate and like, all right, because a lot of times when we're like, the units are one of the last things to kind of go in.
Yeah.
All the overhead's done, and we're kind of sprinting to the finish here.
That's
so we want to know how fast you can install.
Yeah.
And I remember that was one of the questions you reached out to Nate about, like, okay, this crew that's coming in, because we could get different crews, right? Depending, like, we try, if we like them, like, hey, can you please get the same crew on this? Because we already know them, we know how they work.
Yes.
But I remember that being one of the questions, just because we're like, okay, when can we CO? Let's see if what is their install square footage,
Yeah. So when Nate typically reaches out to me and we line up the crews and stuff, he usually says about 7,000 to 9,000 square foot per week.
Yeah.
Now we sometimes entertain bringing out 2 or 3 crews. So the crew is typically like a 5 to 7 man team.
Yeah.
So a 3 crew can be up to 21 people. So basically, sometimes that works out, and we want that. Sometimes it doesn't, because maybe we have to install fire sprinklers in one area, and we actually don't want them to run through the building in under a month because we still need to install something over there.
Yeah.
Or we have to block in a garage door. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll bring the one-man crew on to basically take the inventory, take the shipment, and kind of lay stuff out where it goes, and then we'll delay a second crew to come in about 2 or 3 weeks later to really start ramping up the install.
Yeah.
And then if we need the third crew to come in, we usually don't, because those guys are just so fast. Then we could talk to Nate and ProSteel about that. But usually they are moving faster than we typically anticipate.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important to get all the overheads done. Your overhead electrical, HVAC, plumbing if you got plumbing overhead. Definitely got to get that wrapped up because before you know it, ProSteel will be right there pushing the limits.
Yeah, you want to be out of their way. You want them
Yeah.
to come in and just move through the building
Yeah.
as quick as they can. Yeah, yeah. That was Lexington, and then they've bidded out some other jobs for us that we have down the pipeline.
Yeah.
So we're excited to use them again.
Yep, we have one that's coming up real soon with them, Kernersville.
Yeah, Nate's been a great contact for us.
Yeah. All right.
So another first that ProSteel kind of did for us was, once again, it was brand new. I was just, my toesies were just dipped in the water. And then I got thrown in all the way. But was these little paint chips that I saw floating around the office.
That's
and
right.
all these tally marks going on the whiteboard. And I'm like, do I get a vote? What is going on here? And it was to pick our future door color.
Yeah.
Because Lexington was the first one to actually have colored doors.
It was because we first of all, I'm colorblind. Okay, so that's one strike against me.
Yeah.
However, we walked a job site or two and we realized there's a lot of white going on, like white walls, white hallways, white doors, and it was kind of a lot, especially when you have those lights coming down. It's like kind of blinding, and we just thought, we want to break it up. We want it to look, not too flashy, but like really professional and kind of done right with a nice tone to it.
Yeah.
So the first thought was a kind of mute gray. So we actually had. I don't know if you saw those 3 different gray samples.
I think I did.
I still have them at my desk. I actually saw them this morning.
Well, we used it for the Metal Floor Kernersville, I believe, right?
Yeah, we did. Yes, we did. Yeah, we used those color samples. And you're right. So, I was, the team wanted gray, so I got these gray samples, and Nate dropped them off. I remember I met him in the parking lot, and he's, we're looking over these grays, and we picked a gray that we liked, and so I was flaunting these things around like, hey, look, this is going to be our new color, like one of these grays. Pretty sure it's going to be this one. And then we got opinions, and then everybody was like, yeah, I just don't know about gray. I was like, I just did all this work.
Yeah.
But they were right. The gray, it's just not that cool. It's just not, it's kind of bland. And for an interior, it's just not that resounding. It's just kind of whatever. So the idea was blues, and I love blue, from what I can tell, being colorblind.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of blue samples. I contacted Nate. I said, Nate, what kind of blues do you have? And he got me 3 different blues. And that's when on the whiteboard, we have a whiteboard right in the middle of the office. I put the blues out and I made a tally, and everybody was tallying, and it came down to 2 blues. It was Polar Blue, which is the one we went with. But then do you remember the name of the other one?
I do not.
Yeah. I remember the gray was it was called like Silhouette Gray or something like that, but I don't remember the other blue. But anyways, the blues were a hot topic, and it came down to Eric and Levi's vote, and we went with Polar Blue, and I'm glad we did. It is a really nice blue, and I think we've been doing better about also like presenting our doors like at our storefronts better. So at Lexington, we have this like 2-foot corridor right off the storefront. That's basically a service corridor. But we put these blue doors against the white liner panel, and it just looks awesome. And when you see it from the street, it just imagine if it was a white liner panel with a white door, you wouldn't even see it. You wouldn't even notice. Yeah. So the blue is our new standard, and I think it just looks awesome.
Yeah, I'm loving the blue. We even did it on the outside.
Yeah,
of Lexington, which was a really cool little we did storage.
3 blue doors on the exterior that are just kind of it signifies that this building is storage. Those don't actually work. Yeah. But it's a nice look to it for sure.
Yeah. We've talked about material just a little bit. It's light gauge corrugated metal. These things are, but I mean, there's many aspects of it. The big one is the door. Because that's a big part of the selection sheet is like, hey, what door do you want? What latch do you want? We try to, we have like a standard, but recently we have an option for new doors that actually Nate got hooked us up with a display of it. We got it the other day, and it's sitting in our office, and it's pretty cool. But
it's awesome.
So we have these 2 different doors, and what was the first one? Was it?
First one is Track Right.
Track Right, yeah.
Track Right roll up door, and there's another one that's in play. It's Steel Blue roll up door. And then there's a new one, RDI. It's actually not very new. It's been around for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, because Dave knows about it. So
exactly. Yeah,
so Dave knows about it. And
Yeah. So
All
as
right.
soon as somebody asks us if we're okay using a different door or different latch, or we just contact Dave because Dave knows
That's
literally
true.
everything, which he's an immense resource to have. So, Nate called me and said, "Hey, we have an option to use these RDI doors. I feel like we can get them quicker,
Hmm.
and it's a great door." And while I definitely trust Nate, I'm like, well, if I have this immense resource on our team, like,
Yeah.
why not? Why should we not reach out to Dave?
Yeah.
So we sent Dave a couple pictures of the door, the backside, the hinge, all that kind of stuff. And Dave was like, yeah, let's roll with those. Those look great.
Yeah. And was there? I mean, there was a little bit of cost savings there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cost savings there, but the difference between this new door company and the old door company is that the old door company, their roll-up doors and their swing doors were roughly the same price.
Yeah.
You save a couple bucks, but the newer company, which we love, is that the swing doors are significantly cheaper. So if we need to save money somewhere,
Yeah.
we can go with swing doors and save some money and allocate that money elsewhere. You could really only do it on 5 foot wide units because you can't have this massive 8 foot wide swing door. Like that's not
Double
going to
door.
work. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could do a double door. You could, but that would be kind of funky too.
That would be.
So that's just a great option to have in our back pocket if we ever feel like we need to use that option. We have that option.
Yeah.
And as a construction world where things go wrong and we need to save money, and it's always nice to have different levers we can pull to kind of help us in the end.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely having that resource, Nate, to even walk us through, like, hey, they've got some new doors.
Yeah.
Check them out, and he gives us the resources that we need to make sure we're
Exactly.
making the right selection. So
Yeah, and it's always a moving target, right? Like
Absolutely.
as soon as a company has a great product that people are buying, well, they're going to increase their price. So we have to always have our finger on the pulse where we have a great product for a good price and great installation. Like you always got to keep those doors open because it's a revolving world,
yeah, I like it. ProSteel, what a great find. First of all, I mean,
Yeah.
just the journey that ProSteel took from coming to an investor meetup
Yeah.
to shoot the breeze,
Yeah.
to get in their first job, and then really just their ability to show up, do what they promise and deliver,
Yeah.
and then all the way to this where we have created this great partnership and have this amazing swag to wear every day, and drink out of these fancy mugs
Yeah.
and really represent for them.
Yeah.
I know one of the projects we looked at, I think the owner, the owner will walk the site and
Yeah.
really chat it up with him, and
Brad was out there.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brad. Yeah,
Great
Brad's a
group of
great guy.
guys, yeah.
I love Brad. He knows his stuff. Pretty sure it's his brother Neil who's in the engineering department too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his brother
Yeah.
Neil is their lead engineer
Okay.
because they do structural buildings as well.
Yes, they
ProSteel.
do. Yeah. I want to
so-
talk to him about a barnuminium.
Yeah, they do barnuminiums. They're pretty cool. He sent me some pictures. But yeah, I mean, what I also love about ProSteel, and you don't always get this. So ProSteel, what they say this to me often, that they love competition working for what they have, right?
Mhm.
And so I could tell Nate flat out, hey, I'm shopping this project with other vendors, just so you know. And Nate never gets upset.
Yeah.
He's always just like, hey man, okay, I understand, but this is where we can save price, and
Yeah.
when do you need it, and maybe let me see if I can buy bulk so that I can save on my costs. And it's always a solution driven response I get
Yeah.
from Nate. It's not like, oh wow, that's messed up, you
Yeah.
shouldn't do, like he knows. We told him flat out when we first started bringing him on board that we have a responsibility to our investors. We're never going to have fishing buddies and just use those people
Exactly, yeah. That's
exclusively.
what I
We
like, yeah.
can't do that. We literally can't do that. We cannot, as investors,
Yeah.
you and I, we owe it to everybody. We owe it to our own families. We owe it to the whole Nomad team, all of the Nomad investors. It's just not something we will ever do.
Correct.
So the great thing about ProSteel is they understand that. They get it.
Yeah.
They don't get hurt feelings. It's business, and we have metrics that we have to hit, and it's always finding solutions to hit those metrics is why we keep using them.
Yeah.
They know that there's a possibility on a future project that we will not use them. That's definitely a possibility, but they're going to do what they can to make sure that they are on top of mind for us.
Yes, that is very true. That's
Yeah.
what we like about Nate and ProSteel, the whole ProSteel team.
Love
Yeah.
them. Yep.
So, I mean, once again, from figuring out the material selection to them coming out and knocking out 7 to 9,000 square feet, in a week to their overall product at the end, we're very satisfied.
Yes.
And ProSteel has just been great for us.
Yeah, they continue to prove themselves, and I know that they're a young and hungry team,
Yeah.
and just like we are, and it's like they take it, to the next level because they know they have to stay competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not getting complacent. So shout out to ProSteel. Thanks so much, ProSteel team. If you have any questions or want to reach out to some of these guys, Brad and Nate or Neil, just shoot us a message and we'll get you their contact info. And yeah, if we could help in any way, just let us know. We do know a thing or two about the storage materials, and as we downplay it, we do have a lot of experience with kind of what works and what doesn't work. On the structural side, we have engineers that handle a lot of that stuff for us, but again, we have contacts, and ProSteel has a built-in engineering team. Yeah, so whether you use ProSteel or any other storage suppliers, if you have any questions or comments, just reach out to us. I'm Ryan Bono. This is Cameron Pleasant. Thanks for watching Elm Elaborates Season 2.
See you on the next one.